there's a strange thing that happens the day your portfolio quietly ticks past $300,000. You'd think it would feel like a celebration, but it doesn't. You just sit there looking at the number, waiting for some wave of relief to hit you, and it just doesn't come, and that's confusing because $300,000 is not a small amount of money. I mean, it's more than most people will ever invest in their entire lives. By any honest measure, you're doing extraordinarily well. But you're still setting an alarm, still answering to a boss, still watching the bills land at the start of every month. Nothing about your actual day looks any different than it did at 100,000. And so a quiet little question starts forming in the back of your mind. If 300,000 didn't change anything, what number actually will? Here's the thing nobody warns you about. When you first started, these numbers felt gigantic. $10,000 felt like a real achievement, 50,000 felt almost unreal, and 100,000 felt like you genuinely arrived somewhere. And now you're staring at triple that, and somehow it feels strangely incomplete. Like you're standing in the middle of a story you haven't quite figured out yet. I'm Finn, and if you're anywhere near $300,000 or grinding your way toward it, I need you to understand something that the overwhelming majority of investors completely miss. 300,000 is not just another milestone on the wall. It's the exact point where the entire engine of wealth building changes how it runs. But here's the catch. It only works in your favor if you can recognize what's happening. And most people never do. Most people assume wealth grows in a straight line, and honestly, the logic feels airtight. If it took you 12, 15 years of grinding to reach 300,000, then surely reaching a million just means running the same playbook 3 more times. Save more, invest more, wait longer, repeat. Clean, simple, obvious, and almost entirely wrong. Because the road from 0 to 300,000 and the road from 300,000 to a million are not the same road at all. They barely even feel like the same activity. Up to this point, almost everything came from you, your effort, your discipline, your willingness to say no while everyone around you upgraded their lives. So let me walk you through how brutal that early stretch actually was. Because if you're living it right now, I want you to know it's supposed to feel this way. From 0 to 50,000 was punishing. Every contribution felt microscopic. You'd throw thousands of dollars into your account and watch the balance barely twitch. The market could climb 8% in a year. But when your pile is small, well, 8% of small is still small. A whole year of saving could feel like it nudged you forward 3 steps. It was slow and honestly, it was kind of discouraging. Then from 50 to 100,000 things eased up a little. But the truth hadn't changed. Your paycheck was still doing nearly all the work. Your contributions were the engine and the market was just along for the ride. Then somewhere between 100 and 200,000, something interesting finally flickered to life. The market started chipping in amounts you could actually feel. Some years your investments grew by $10,000 or more on their own, and that felt good. That felt like progress. But even then, and this part is important, you were still doing most of the heavy lifting. Your savings were still the main story, and you kept going anyway. You stayed disciplined when the people around you weren't. You shut down lifestyle creep before it could take root. You drove the sensible car. You skipped the upgrades that didn't matter. Kept investing when the market felt shaky. Kept investing when it dropped. Kept showing up when the progress felt invisible. And eventually you crossed 200,000, then 250. And then one ordinary morning you open the app and there it is. $300,000. And just like I said, no fireworks, no rush of freedom, just another number glowing on a screen. But this is exactly the moment where almost everyone misreads what's actually going on. Because right around 300,000, the math underneath you quietly flips. For the very first time, your money starts moving at the same speed you do. Sometimes even faster. So let me make that real, because numbers say it better than I can. Say you earn $90,000 a year and you're saving a serious 20% of it. That's $18,000 going into your investments every year. Genuinely excellent, the kind of discipline most people never get anywhere near. But now look at what your $300,000 does on its own. At a perfectly ordinary 8% return, that portfolio throws off about $24,000 in a single year. No extra hours, no raise, no new job, no change in your behavior at all. Your money just out-earned the savings you fought so hard to set aside. Sit with that for a second. For years, your progress lived and died on your effort, your income, your discipline, your refusal to spend. But now, for the first time, your wealth is starting to run on its own momentum. Your investments are generating more than your contributions. Your money is finally working as hard as you are, and that right there is the real turning point. Not the number, the shift underneath it. But here's where it gets sneaky. Even though the math has already flipped, it still doesn't feel dramatic yet. Year 1, your 300,000 grows to around 3024, nice, but not life-changing. Year 2, maybe 350, still gradual. Year 3, around 3080, real progress but slow. Year 5, maybe 440 or 450. You're moving, but nothing about it feels explosive, and this is exactly where so many investors run out of patience. They were promised compounding and they expected it to feel like a rocket launch. Instead, it feels boring, predictable, almost underwhelming, but that's compounding doing exactly what compounding always does. It starts quietly, slowly, almost invisibly, then it accelerates, and then eventually it becomes overwhelming. The part nobody sees coming is what happens once you push past 300,000 and the curve starts bending upward. The gains get bigger, growth stacks on top of growth, and the momentum gets harder and harder to stop until one day your portfolio is growing faster than your effort ever could. And this is the exact moment when investors accidentally sabotage themselves, not because they got lazy, but because 300,000 creates this powerful illusion. After all those years of restraint, you finally feel like you made it. You finally feel like you can breathe. You finally feel like you've earned the right to upgrade. And that feeling, that completely understandable, deeply human feeling, is where the real danger lives. Because the biggest threat to your money at this stage isn't a market crash, it isn't inflation, it isn't interest rates. It's the temptation to interrupt the process at the precise moment it's about to take off. And most people don't even realize they did it until years later. Compounding hates interruptions. It runs on one thing above all else: time. And once that curve starts bending, every single interruption costs you more than the one before it. This is where the psychology of money becomes way more dangerous than the math. At 30,000 invested, pulling out a few $1,000s barely registers. At 100,000, a $10,000 withdrawal stings, but you recover. But at 300,000, the consequences start compounding right alongside the gains, and small decisions quietly turn into very expensive ones. So let me show you the most common one. You've spent years building this. You saved, you stayed disciplined, you finally hit 300,000 and then the market drops. Not a collapse, just a normal, healthy correction. Say 25%, your 300,000 becomes 225, and suddenly this isn't the theory anymore. This feels like years of your life evaporating in a few months. You remember how long the first 50,000 took, the first 100, and it feels like the market just deleted all of it overnight. So you do the thing that feels completely rational in the moment. You sell, you move to cash, you tell yourself you'll jump back in once things feel safe again. But the market doesn't wait for your nerves to settle. It moves faster than your confidence ever will. And by the time you finally feel comfortable, it's already recovered. Your portfolio would have climbed right back to 300,000. Except you're sitting at 225 in cash, still waiting for a perfect moment that never actually announces itself. And that one emotional decision didn't just cost you money, it cost you momentum. And momentum is the entire engine of this thing, because the real power of compounding was never just growth, it's uninterrupted growth. Growth that keeps stacking on top of every gain that came before it. The moment you break that chain, the timeline resets. And this is the quiet secret behind nearly everyone who eventually builds a multi-million-dollar portfolio. They almost never make dramatic moves. They just refuse to break the chain. They stay invested, they keep contributing, and they let time do the thing only time can do. But there's a second shift happening around 300,000 that almost no one talks about, and it has nothing to do with the market. It's about leverage. Up until now, the most important financial decisions of your life were all career decisions. How much you earn, how fast your income climbs, whether you land the promotion, whether you negotiate the raise. Because when your portfolio is small, your salary matters far more than your investments. A $10,000 raise could genuinely reshape your future, but once you cross 300,000, something quietly inverts. Your portfolio gets powerful enough to go toe-to-toe with your income. An 8% year is roughly $24,000 of growth, the equivalent of a massive raise you never had to ask for. You didn't switch jobs, you didn't work a single extra hour. Your capital just did it, and that's the leverage shift. Up to this point, your biggest lever was earning more. But from here forward, your biggest lever becomes investing smart and staying invested. Your capital is becoming more powerful than your paycheck, and most people never update their thinking to match. They keep obsessing over salary while the most powerful financial tool they own grows quietly in the background, ignored. Which brings me to the last trap waiting at this level, and honestly, it might be the most destructive of them all: the lifestyle upgrade. For years, you were the disciplined one. You avoided the expensive habits, you delayed the gratification, you watched friends level up their lives while you quietly fed your investments. And now you finally feel like you've earned the reward. So you upgrade: the nicer car, the bigger house, the expensive habits you always told yourself you'd get to someday, and you justify it because technically you can afford it. But here's the calculation almost nobody runs. Every dollar you pull out of compounding at 300,000 isn't just a dollar spent, it's a dollar that will never multiply again. That $40,000 car isn't a $40,000 decision. At 8% over 20 years, that's roughly $185,000 of future wealth gone. A $60,000 splurge could quietly cost you $280,000 in compounding you'll never see. The price was never the sticker. The price is the momentum you just erased. And this is exactly why the people who actually retire with several $1,000,000 tend to make a decision that looks almost strange from the outside. They stay boring. They don't suddenly inflate their lifestyle. They don't ramp up their spending the second they can. They protect a system they spent years building because they understand the one thing most people miss. 300,000 isn't the reward. It's the engine finally turning over. The machine just started running. And once an engine like that is running, the smartest move on earth is to not touch it. Just let it run, because the years right after 300,000 are some of the most powerful compounding years you will ever live through. Every year the numbers get bigger. Every year the gains accelerate. And eventually your portfolio is growing faster than your effort ever could. Your money isn't just working for you anymore. It's outworking you. And that's the moment wealth building stops feeling like a grind and starts feeling like momentum, but only if the chain stays unbroken. Only if you stay invested, only if you keep contributing and resist the urge to chase shortcuts. Because compounding doesn't reward excitement. It rewards patience, it rewards consistency, it rewards time. 20 years from now, when your portfolio has grown into something genuinely life-changing, when your investments are generating more income than your job ever did, you're going to realize something that surprises you. Your wealth wasn't built in the years you worked the hardest. It was built in the years you let compounding run quietly in the background, untouched, one patient year stacking onto the next. And for most investors, that quiet machine truly switches on right around $300,000. From that point forward, every year of patience becomes exponentially more valuable. And once the curve really starts bending, compounding stops feeling slow and starts feeling unstoppable. So if you're somewhere on the path to 300,000, hold on to this. The hardest part was never reaching it. The hardest part is protecting it long enough for compounding to take the wheel. If this changed how you see your money even a little, hit that like button so it can find more people who need to hear it. And if you're serious about understanding how wealth actually grows, subscribe, because on this channel, we break down the psychology and the math behind real financial freedom. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.